A couple weeks ago, the NBA released its schedule for the 2020-2021 season. So in this video, I'm going to give you the 3 defining games that could potentially have the biggest impact on the Raptors this upcoming NBA season. Let's get into it. Welcome to Amateur Hour Sports, where we give you NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors. For now, 4 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. But in the new year, we look to expand to more content, live streaming, and other things just like that. You can check out the community post for more information on that. But on this channel right now, we give you this Raptors content in vlog or video podcast style. So make sure if it is your first time here with me today and you like what you see, you hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the future content and join the movement of the channel. Thank you so much for all the support on the last video and for the last month as a whole. It's been a fantastic month. But today we are talking about the NBA schedule, specifically what it means for the Toronto Raptors. Had a good look, dived into it this week, and decided to make a video talking about the 3 potentially defining games of the first half of the season, because we know the NBA only released half the schedule. I think they're going to work out other regulations, hopefully, at that point where we're halfway through the season. There's some more freedom when it comes to restrictions, so less restrictions. They can do more with the schedule instead of like the series where you're playing the same team a bunch of times at home. They want to eliminate that. They just want to have more freedom with the scheduling. So we have the first half of the schedule. And I think that looking at it right now, it looks like the Raptors have, a bit of their work cut out for them. Obviously, you don't have to play as many Western Conference opponents, but first game of the season against the New Orleans Pelicans for the second year in a row. If you remember, so long ago now, the first game of last season, they did play the New Orleans Pelicans and took them down. I forget the score, but they took them down in overtime. This time around, the Pelicans have a much stronger team. Obviously, Zion will be playing this time. Steven Adams was a great acquisition for the Pelicans. I think that they are a playoff team this year, especially if Zion is healthy for most of the season, because I know he's going to have at least some issues with injury just based on his sheer size, but that's not one of the 3 defining games, I think, for the Raptors this season. Now, let's get into those 3 games, starting with December 29th against the Philadelphia 76ers. This is game 3 of the season. We would be traveling to Philadelphia for this game, far away now. Not, just a quick trip to Pennsylvania, all the way down in Tampa. We have to go up to Philadelphia to play this game. And the reason I think this is a season-defining game is because this is about the level of the Raptors. The Philadelphia 76ers and the Toronto Raptors are going to be jostling for position this entire NBA season. That's no secret. I think that the Raptors have the edge in terms of the personnel on their team, especially after the 76ers had a bit of a lackluster season, finishing 6th in the Eastern Conference and getting swept in the first round of the playoffs by the Boston Celtics. Now in the playoffs, they didn't have Ben Simmons, but still, getting swept in the first round, not an ideal situation by any stretch of the imagination for the 76ers. But what they did in the offseason, they kind of cleaned house. They got Doc Rivers now, they got new members of the front office, but most importantly, the 76ers have finally added shooting to their roster. They finally added some sharpshooters, adding guys like Seth Curry, who is a lights-out shooter, one of the best shooters percentage-wise in NBA history. Also adding Danny Green, who the last time he was in the East with the Toronto Raptors had a fantastic season, really regressed in his time with the LA Lakers, but I think Danny Green still offers some great 3-and-D ability. I think he'll have a key role for this 76ers team. Also, finally got rid of Al Horford's contract. That was some huge weight off the shoulders of the 76ers. So the Sixers, I think, are going to be better this season than they were last season, adding in these shooters, adding in some key pieces, doing well in the draft. I thought that Tyrese Maxey was a bit of a sleeper pick, and they were fortunate to get him where they did. I believe he was the 21st overall pick. They still have Ben Simmons. They still have Joel Embiid, and they finally have a pretty good backup for Joel Embiid in Dwight Howard, a guy who's not going to get a ton of minutes because Embiid is going to take all those minutes. But when Dwight Howard comes in, a great defender, a great rebounder, something the Philadelphia 76ers will need, especially if they're going to put more emphasis on shooting the basketball finally. So I think the 76ers have improved. I don't think they've improved enough to be better than the Raptors, but this game is going to be important. Obviously, beating a division rival, a team that's going to be jostling for position with you, beating a team like that early on in the season will kind of set the tone for the Raptors as they progress onward. Obviously, the Raptors' first game this season is against the Pelicans, second game against the Spurs, third game against the 76ers, the game we're talking about here. I think the Raptors realistically can start 2-0, and this game will put them at 3-0. 3-0 sounds a lot better than 2-1. Obviously, that is very early in the season, but starting well is very important. It's hugely important to just the psychological aspect as you progress through the season. You don't want to be chasing games. You don't want to be chasing teams in the standings early on. You want to set the tone for your season early. Get comfortable. Obviously, it's going to be weird playing your home games in Tampa, but getting settled in early by winning this third game of the season against a rival, let's say. I say it's a rivalry now, especially after a man like Kawhi Leonard did this to the 76ers just a year and a half ago. It's a rivalry, and the Raptors want to take advantage of that. The second game we are going to talk about today is January 4th against the Boston Celtics. The Raptors would be hosting this one, and it is Game 6, the sixth game of the season for the Toronto Raptors, and playing against a team who took them down in 7 games in the Eastern Conference semifinals not so long ago. We don't need to talk about that because, it's still there. The memory of that is still very prominent in my mind, thinking about that Game 7, how close it came, just the margins it came down to. I think the Raptors, obviously there's a little bit extra in this game because that's the team that knocked you out of the playoffs. You want to show them up, obviously. You want to go out and beat them and prove that you think you are the better team. And the Raptors, who finished ahead of them in the standings last year, who I think could have benefited a bit from having home court advantage in the playoffs, but I think the better team won this series ultimately. The Boston Celtics outperformed the Raptors in 5 of the 7 games, deserved to win. But the Raptors, different team this year. I think that they'll definitely, they're obviously going to want to win this game, but they'll definitely have something a little bit extra lingering from that sour taste of losing in 7 games in the playoffs. The Raptors will surely believe that they are the better team, and they will want to show it on January 4th. And I'm sure the Celtics will feel the same way. They think they're the better team, and they are going to want to prove it by beating the Raptors. But the Raptors, hosting it in Tampa Bay, they got to come in firing. They got to show out and prove that they are the better team and set the tone. Another one that's going to set the tone for the rest of the season. The Celtics, with this amazing young core, have done a great job of still improving their team this season. Obviously, still have Kemba Walker, but a decent ball-handling backup guard now in Jeff Teague that they didn't have last year. Obviously, you've still got Tatum. You've still got Jaylen Brown. You still have Marcus Smart. They lost Gordon Hayward, but they saved a ton of money. They added in Tristan Thompson as their 5 guy. I think that's huge. They finally have a proper presence big, a guy who's going to get rebounds. This was completely necessary for the Boston Celtics, and having a guy like Daniel Tice who can spread the floor when he comes into the game off the bench if they do decide to start Tristan Thompson. I'm not sure what they're going to do there, but I think they'll start Tristan Thompson. Daniel Tice can come in and spread the floor if needed in some games. If you want to play smaller style of play, some small ball, but Tristan Thompson, finally, that type of big who can play defense, who can get rebounds, who can get busy on the interior, was a huge acquisition for the Boston Celtics. They were going to get better regardless just because of the young core, but they added in some nice pieces, did well in the draft, I think, getting Nesmith and Peyton Pritchard, who I'm a huge fan of. They did well in the draft. They got better. The Raptors are going to have to show out and show that they are the better team in this game and show them up for beating them in the playoffs last year. Big game for the Raptors. The third season-defining game for the Toronto Raptors going into this season, this first half of the season, in my opinion, is January 22nd against the Miami Heat. This will be the Raptors' 15th game of the season, hosting the Miami Heat, who just got to the NBA Finals where they lost to the Lakers in 6 games. I think that this Miami Heat team, the team that got to the finals, I think it overachieved. I think that they are not as good of a team as the Bucks, the Celtics, or the Raptors. However, they beat the Bucks handily. They took down the Celtics, decently comfortable. Wasn't really a stress beating the Celtics. I believe it was 6 games. Celtics obviously gave them a run for their money, and Bam Adebayo's middle finger, if it's not as strong and sheer-willed as it was to stop a Jason Tatum dunk, maybe we're talking about this differently. But the Miami Heat get through the NBA Finals. I think that the Celtics are a better team than them. I think that the Toronto Raptors are a better team than them. but you have to show it in your matchups. The Raptors did quite well in some of their matchups against the Miami Heat last season. There was one kind of blowout victory for the Miami Heat, but I think ultimately the Raptors match up very well against the Miami Heat, and Miami haven't done a spectacular job in making themselves better this offseason. I think they're relying on some of these younger guys to just improve their own game to make the team better, not any landmark acquisitions in here. Obviously, you still got Dragic, who they just re-signed to some good money, about $19 million. I think they're expecting Kendrick Nunn to get even better, even though near the end of the season he wasn't getting as much play time. Tyler Hero obviously has a lot of room to improve, a very high ceiling. I mean, not saying anything against him. He's a great player, but he still has a long way to go to reach his ceiling. He's that good of a player, I think. Duncan Robinson can get even better after playing his rookie season, even though he's already 26, 27 years old. You've still got Jimmy Butler. Bam Adebayo is getting better, and some decent bigs in Kelly Olynyk and Myers Leonard, some bigs who can stretch the floor very well. This is a good team. Obviously, they got to the finals. This is a great team. However, I think, again, the Raptors are better in this scenario. I think when it comes to the 76ers and the Heat, the Raptors are the better team. When it comes to the Celtics, I think the Celtics have a better team on paper, but that doesn't mean the Raptors can't beat them in a series, can't beat them in one game against the other. But when it comes to the Heat, I truly believe the Raptors are the better basketball team. And for that reason, this is important to show it again. Again, this is another team that's going to be around the same position in the conference. So to really cement your position in the Eastern Conference, you have to win the games like this to prove that you are the better team. And it's just a psychological aspect of beating this team that you think you're better than. It kind of goes the same for all three. Three teams here, the Celtics, the 76ers, and the Heat. Three teams who are going to be battling for those positions in the Eastern Conference. I think the Bucks will lock up the 1 seed. These three teams are battling it out, and I think the Nets will be involved in that scrap between these 4 teams for the 2 to 5 positions in the Eastern Conference. So when you're playing these 3 teams who they've done work in the offseason, the Raptors have done a lot of work in the offseason, you want to prove your game in these contests. And this gives you that edge, this gives you that boost as you look to go on. And this is big. January 22nd, I think that the hardest month of the Raptors schedule is February. They're going to have a lot of problems in February. They're playing a lot of good teams. I think they have the Bucks twice, the 76ers twice, the Heat, the Celtics. All these teams come into play in this month of February. So winning this game against the Miami Heat on January 22nd is going to give them a little bit something extra going in. That boost, that mental upgrade going into that February month where you're going to be playing a lot of these teams multiple times and you need to be fresh. I think the Raptors have done a great job in loading up on depth for this season. I think it's going to be more important than ever before with everything going on. You may have guys who are missing games with this insane schedule. Guys are going to get injured, so it's good to have a lot of cover in your bench to fill in these positions. I think the Raptors have done a good job in loading up on depth. That's going to be hugely important for the regular season. I think that the Raptors have been known for their depth, but this is the best depth that they have had in years. There is so many players on the bench who can contribute to this team. There are going to be guys not getting any minutes who could contribute to this team. There's just so much excitement to go for in this season. So there you have it, my 3 season-defining games. December 29th against the 76ers, going to Philly. January 4th against the Boston Celtics. We are hosting, and we are also hosting January 22nd against the Miami Heat. Those, I think, are the 3 season-defining games for the first half of the season for the Toronto Raptors. We'll see how they fare in those games, but I am very excited to get going on December 22nd. So let me know your guys' opinions. What do you think is going to be the most important game for the Raptors going into this regular season? Perhaps it is the first game of the season to set the tone for the season against a New Orleans Pelican team who definitely improved themselves. But let me know all your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. But that wraps it up for me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you are still here, please like the video if you like, and subscribe to Amateur Sports for more content just like this. Growing the channel at a very good pace. Thank you so much for all the support that is coming in. I will try to keep fulfilling the good content to keep you guys entertained. At the end of the day, I believe what I say. If you disagree, that is okay. We'll see you again next time for another video.